What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Toko coming to you with another episode of Felons to Men podcast. Appreciate you liking and subscribing and tuning in for some real stuff, real life situations, real life feelings, and everything that comes along with that. Felons to Men podcast, try to stay positive, but we also, give you a look into all the stuff that happens, in the aftermath or in between, in the beginning, the feelings and all the situations that, that I've been in or that Flacco's been in. And we're just trying to give it to you raw, man, So I was talking with a couple people over the last couple of weeks, man, a couple of homegirls of mine, and then one of the subscribers and a friend of mine on IG that I met, and that, my story and my situation really touched her. And we've been talking. She knows who she is, man. She's a good person. We all have struggles, and we all go through things in life that mold us or break us. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you get broken in men and women situations like mine, doesn't necessarily mean you got to stay that way. There's plenty of avenues and plenty of things that you can do, but you just have to get there on your own time, man. You know what I mean? It's the best advice I can give anybody, even though I really don't try to give advice, man. I just try to lead by example. So I'll just say this, that, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and when you're done, having to apologize for your actions, or you're constantly, getting locked up, or you got your problems with substance abuse or mental health or whatever it is, man, the hardest thing you have to do is reach out. And the second hardest thing you do is, once you reach out and you get to that point to where you got to start talking about these things and dealing with these things head on, man. I'm a product of my environment, man. And the old timers, man, before I got out on this last, 10 and a half year bid, man, told me, if I don't deal with the situations that brought me here in the first place, it's always going to bring me back, and I'm never going to change, And so looking back and going back and trying to heal all those little boys, and trying to heal that Toko, that went wrong, somewhere in his life, and went down this path of destruction, corruption and betrayal and all this other stuff, And it was the hardest thing I had to do. It was the hardest thing I had to do in my life, was admit to myself that there's some issues there, that prison affected me, that being on lockdown 23 hours a day, being in these shoot turns and these shoot programs and validation and the loss, brothers and sisters that I've lost, both blood and non-blood, family and aunts and uncles. You learn how to turn that shit off, because ain't nobody want to hear it in there. You got guys in there doing 300 years, double life sentences, man, especially if you're on those 3 and 4 yards. Ain't nobody trying to hear your sad story. Ain't nobody give a shit, And I always took into consideration and respect that it wasn't my house. I was just there renting. It belonged to the lifers, because I came from that old school, man, and, the late 80s and early 90s, and that's just the way that it was, man. You didn't talk about the streets, out of sight, out of mind, out of touch. And, but all that stuff comes with a heavy price tag, because your socialization skills and your ability to relate to somebody other than your cellie or yourself or the environment around you, because those 4 walls, man, are haunting. Being behind those 4 walls, man, can be detrimental to one's health. That's why I got enough memories of the horror that I've seen, not only what the politics do, man, but just what prison does to both the correction officers, man, and the inmates. People taking themselves out, people going nuts, people being some of the strongest men I've ever seen, a year later get withered down, man, to nothing. They're just talking, it just, once you break down, man, have a nervous breakdown, that's exactly what it is, in the most convenient and simplest terms. Watching somebody lose their mind, It's just not my thing. You know what I mean? And it's not funny, and it's not to be made fun of, man. It's very serious, you know, because when you give into that darkness, you know, and this is nothing against people that give into it or suffer from deep depression or suicidal thoughts, man. It's hard to get out of that, you know. I never went through it, but I was around a lot of close people to it, you know. Alicia went through a lot of that, and some of the conversations I recollect that, you know, she had the ability to know what was going on, but she couldn't stop herself. She knew what she was doing was wrong. She knew what she was feeling. She knew that I loved her. She knew there was just a lot of things, you know, and I refer back a lot to that, not to keep bringing up the situation, but that's what I draw my strength from, and that's where my experience lies. All that stuff, you know, rolled up into one. And for me, man, you know, it was very deep, and a lot of this shit I don't talk about with anybody, man, for the simple fact that it ain't nobody's fucking business. My thinking at the time, and you know, these are private thoughts, you know, and like I said, I'll get into some of the stuff to give you guys a picture, man, but a lot of the more private and intimate details of you know, certain people passing and their deaths, or you know, being deemed no good, and some of the things that I've seen, man, you know, out of respect for the families and their kids, I'm not going to get into the complete details of the who, what, when, where, and why. I'll get into it on a vague sense, man, but I got respect. You know, that's the only thing that I got, and everybody knows, man, I'm a humble dude. I carry myself the way I want to be treated, and for those that don't like it, they don't got to tune in, and God bless you, and more power to you. Hope you find the channel, but all that negativity, it will not be tolerated on here, man. You know, the comments and the derogatory stuff, you know, misery loves company, man, and I don't wish bad upon anybody. You know what I mean? And yeah, you got the right to comment, and you got the right to say what you want, and you also got the right on our end as YouTubers to block you and delete them comments, man. You know what I mean? So let's keep it respectful, and let's just keep it, you know, professional, man, because all I'm doing is giving my experience and what I went through. And like I said, from that felon to being a man now, and the responsibility and the emotions and the feelings that come along with that, because to me that was a big, you know, big part of it, you know. And the point of this video today is, you know, a couple of these homegirls of mine, you know, and like I said, one of the female subscribers that got at me on a personal level on IG and kind of broke down her life to me. You know, I guess I don't guess, this is what people believe and what they see is I come off detached, and I'll explain that. You know, they say I come off detached, like out of sight, out of mind, out of touch, what I just said a couple minutes ago. You know, when you do all this time like I did, or anybody's done, and you have loved ones, a wife, a husband, you got kids, you got to turn off what they're doing, and you got to recognize and realize, man, that each time, if you're blessed enough to get visits and they leave, it's hard, you know, and you don't talk about it. And picking up the phone and getting letters and birthdays and holidays, man, they start to me personally, they didn't mean shit anymore, you know, because it was just another day when you're in the shoe, or when you're there in prison. And you know, it's not celebrated, man. Very few, you know, you make a few cards, spend some canteen and some ducats and things like that, right? You know, to get some cards made and get sent off if you got loved ones, man. But it makes your mind, you know, to me, and this is just me, and this is how I conducted and carried myself, man. It made me weak to think about that. You know, I thought about it in private, never talked to my cellies about it. Always shared the good memories, man, but just kept all that stuff kind of, you know, PI, man, private, you know. And you learn how to detach, you know. I mean, there were years I didn't talk to my mother or my father or my siblings, and I didn't miss them. And that's real talk. I didn't miss them, but when they were around, man, we'd pick up where we left off at, you know. And that's just it wasn't intentional, but you know, life goes on out here in the free world, and behind the walls it just kind of stays stagnant. It stays the same. Yeah, they got the cell phones and they got all this other stuff in there, man, you know, because technology. But the bottom line is, man, you ain't going nowhere. You're going, either if you're on the main line, you're going from your highway or to school, back to your cell, back to the same yard, and you're there thinking about it, man. It's like being locked up in your backyard, man, for 20 years or 10 years or 5 years or whatever it is. It ain't normal, you know, and there's nothing glamorous and there's nothing glitzy and there ain't nothing special about it, man. Straight the fuck up, you know, and it was just amazing, man, how I didn't lose my mind, you know, and that just showed me the strength and the resilience that I had, that all those teachings and stuff like that I learned that I'm not going to get into here helped me stay sane, you know, conducting myself with professionalism and all that stuff, man. But how it affected me now is I come off like, you know, I don't give a shit, or I only call when I need something, you know. And first of all, when I call somebody, you know, it's never for no money because I'm self-sufficient. It's never for no type of support or, you know, or to use anybody, man. But I guess it seems that way to people because, and I've got good friends, man, you know, and my best friend is a female, and sometimes she calls and I don't answer, you know, and then I'll reply back in a couple of days, and I get caught up throughout the day. And I know it sounds like I'm making excuses, but that's the part that I'm talking about, that residual effect of out of sight, out of mind, out of touch, is you learn to program yourself that I do what's ever in front of me for that day. Especially being in the position I am at work, I do not want to be like these fucking homeboys and homegirls out here, man, where you're just living and breathing and consumed by your jale. Regardless if it's a 6-figure job or if it's a $20 an hour job. Any job is a good job, man. But you know what? When you punch in, that's when it's all about. When you punch out, fuck that. You know, the computer goes off, and if it goes on, man, it's for recreational purposes only, right? And just for me, man, being that way, closing myself off, not closing off my heart, but just keeping my mind sane, you know, it comes off, man, like I don't give a shit or like I don't give a fuck. And that's not true. Anybody that knows me, man, knows they can pick up the phone, they can call, we can chop it up. You know, regardless, I'll make the time. Like I make the time to do these videos, man. You know, it's far few and in between, but it's a passion for me more than anything else. Yeah, there's money in it. Yeah, the views and stuff like that. But, you know, if you notice, man, I don't trip on none of that shit. You know, I try to get on here as little as I can. I support Flaco, Rojo, and Gunner, and Paradigm Media News, man. Shouts out to Boxer and Sam, man, for what they do over there and everything they bring to the table, man, because it's entertainment, but it's informal. And from Boxer all the way down to the guys I talked about, man, they show you who they are. They show you what they go through, the things that they do. You know, nobody talks derogatory on that past life. Our own personal experiences and why a lot of us fell off or got pushed out or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? But I'm no better than you and you're no better than me. At the end of the day, man, I got to pay my taxes and my bills and keep a roof over my head just like the next man. Whether you're from Fresno, Southern California, you're bulldog, white, black, whatever, man. Everybody can relate to this in some form or fashion if you allow yourself to see, you know. And for me, the only way I've been growing and the only way I've been successful is by listening to those that were close around me and then see me from the outside looking in. It's easy for me to judge my life because I'm on the inside looking out, right? You don't think nothing's wrong with you, but people that love you and they care about you and respect you, they watch your little mannerisms. They watch the way you get down, and because they see a little bit of who you are, and then your actions show something else when it comes to being, like I said, being detached. It all starts off with, you know, me not returning a phone call, man, or going through those things, man, because for so many years, man, I've learned to go without. I've always never wished for anything more than what was in front of me, because everything in my life was always taken from me that I loved and I cared about and I was vulnerable with. You know, case in point to why I even got on YouTube in the first place, dropping my story, right? You know, but because all that's got to go somewhere. All that stress, all that anxiety's got to go somewhere. And for a lot of the years, man, it went either at the tip of a fucking barrel of a gun or the tip of a fucking piece or a knife or my fist, you know. And for what? All because I was feeling a certain type of way, all because I channeled all that anger like I was supposed to into somebody, man, that, you know, I probably should have been breaking bread with instead of trying to take out. because of all the propaganda that I was fed. You know, nothing against those that are active or inactive, man. It just, you know, what was told to me never ever came to fruition. You know, and it was used and manipulated by those that were around me to corrupt and for their own personal and private gain. And I chalk it up as that's just the way that lifestyle is, man. You know, there's no getting around it, and there's no justifying it. And the things that I've done, I was no saint. You know, I was cutthroat just like anybody else, but I conducted myself with diplomacy, you know, and democracy, man, and I always looked out for other people's careers. And you know, my vecinos that were, you know, supposed to be sworn enemies, that were sureños and that were hermeros and stuff like that, man, you know, I had a lot of great conversations and found out, man, I don't understand why the hell we're fighting. You know, these were my personal thoughts back then, because I could relate to these dudes, man. You know, the same food, the same cultura, you know what I mean? They, you know, me being Polynesian, man, you know, they thought that was a trip, and they would tell me about other homies or big homies that are down there, man, that weren't Mexican by blood, you know, but still ran. And there was a lot of relation, man, a lot of relation, you know, and a lot of my close friends, man, are ones that were supposed to be my enemies. I got a lot of upstaters that I talk to, and I got a lot of homies, man, from the LA area. You know what I mean? They knew who they are. And San Diego, a lot of dudes that I did time with, man, and we broke bread, and we were just ourselves as men. The whole point of this podcast, I fell into a man, because you know what? I wish I would have did this shit 20 years ago, man, because my relations with these individuals, man, would have just been, who knows, you know, the heights. You know, and I respect everybody, man, until they don't respect me. And then I got to walk away, and I'll cut you off like I don't know you, you know, and that's, to me, that's just the way it was. Anybody who's been in the shoe, man, knows you can't get access to anybody, man, unless those doors pop by mistake. So silence is a killer. When you cut somebody off at the knees, man, put them on non-com and incommunicado, man, that drives people fucking insane. I've seen people drop out just behind that because they were paranoid. Because that's the only way you can do it. You know, you can't go sell soldiering and woo-wopping on the tier, man, like you see in these punk-ass movies, man, that are not an accurate depiction of the way it is, man, in lockdown. You know what I mean? It might be now, I don't know. But back then, man, it was, you could cut the tension with the knife, but you could also, man, when you get put on the shine, or when you get put, I mean, you know where you stand when you got no communication with nobody and act like you're not there. That drives, I seen that drive motherfuckers insane, you know. But all that plays into what I'm talking about now, being detached, you know. And I haven't been in a relationship in a long time. I've dated, and you know, and I've, sad to say, I conducted and carried myself that same way. If I see you, I see you. If I don't, I don't. And it was just mostly out of respect for your privacy and your life, man. You know, when I seen you, I seen you. You know, don't ask me no questions. I tell you no lies, man. And you know, it was a harsh way to be. And I realized, man, out here in the real world, you can't keep a relationship like that. You can't maintain friendships, man, where, you know, you talk to people once a year, you know what I mean, and expect them to be all lovey-dovey with you. You know, you gotta, what you get into, you know, what you want out of a relationship, you got to put into it, man. And I realized that, you know, these last few years, you know. So, you know, I learned to get out of that comfort zone, man. I learned that I want to change. Well, then I got to put up or shut up, straight up. You know, there's no getting around it. There's no BSing. There's no special formula that you can have to predict how you're going to carry yourself out here or what you're going to do, man. Because in the real world, man, ain't no one trying to hear all that prison fucking mumbo jumbo, all those manipulation tactics, man, and all these big words and shit like that. You just sound like a goddamn politician. And we all know in the state of the world, in America that we're in right now, politicians, man, are a lot of people are gunning for them because they're all full of shit. You know what I mean? And they're not keeping their promises and stuff. But that's neither here nor there. That's just an opinion, of course, that I have. And those are opinions that I get from other people that talk to me about how they feel about all that stuff. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't work in the real world. Being detached, being a loner, it has its, it has its drawbacks, but it also, sometimes I need to take a step back and I need to be away from everybody. It's called Mental Health Day. So I got no problem shutting down for a day or two just to detox off the week sometimes, man. Because like I said, not every time is sunshine and blue skies. Not everything in my life is fucking positive. I go through it just like the next man or the next woman. Struggles, future tripping, doing things. It's far few and in between when I do all this stuff in these videos. And I got the homies and people and friends of mine that I talk to today that are just on different levels, man, and it's important to let people know how you feel. It's important to talk about this. It's important to shoot a video like this, man. Your mental health is everything. You know what I mean? You want to be happy-go-lucky all the time, and well, you got to build up to that. If you want to learn how to uninstitutionalize yourself, as somebody told me once said, I don't even know if that's a word, but, take the prison out of you and that mentality out of you, you got to work at it, and I'm a work in progress. I don't make no excuses. I tell no lies. I just keep it real, and it's a little something I want to shoot about, today, because it was brought to my attention, by a couple female friends of mine that, I can come off that way. They understand me though. They don't judge me for it, but in the beginning they told me how their feelings were when I first met them, how, they just felt that, oh man, this dude trying to use me for something. When I realized I was trying to use him for anything, that I was just busy and that it really didn't affect me, that's when I had to take a look at it. And that's what made me take a look at it. And those are the things that I'm working on today, right? Is to take all that detached behavior, and because I think about people all the time. I think about, hey man, how's she doing? How's he doing? But I don't reach out. And I'll just get this thought in my head, man, and something just click like, hey, fucking stay in your lane, mind your business. There's two places in this world that you could stay for free: in your own lane and out the fuck out of my business, right? And I live by that. And I realize that that's good for certain people, but for the people that want you in their life, it's not so good. You know what I mean? So those are things I work on. And, today, what this video is about, man, is doing all that time, being a felon and being in there, man, and just detaching yourself from the world and how it affects your loved ones, and your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend and your kids and your close friends. Because we all got somebody, man, that, I don't care. There's somebody, whether you want to deny it or whether you want to believe it, there's somebody out there for everybody that just says, man, hey, I'll do anything for him or for her or for those kids. It's whether or not we want to acknowledge it, because we want to stay in the funk. You know what I mean? And anyway, that's the video for today. Like I said, I'll be dropping part 2 about my life. Got into it, dropped a video about it earlier. Getting into the who, what, when, where, and why, and my time as a felon and what led up to me being a man, the point of this podcast. So I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their weekend. Y'all be safe out there. Hug your loved ones. Be with your loved ones, man. And tell somebody how you feel, because you never know what's going to happen the next day.